Thank you for tuning in to the 741 channel, where today I'm going to replace the battery in this 2012 Toyota Corolla. The first thing that I'm going to do today is clean off some corrosion that's on the battery terminals. Now normally I'd use baking soda or something like that, but when I was at Napa they sold me on this product, so I'm going to see if this works any better than the baking soda. I think it cost about $3.50 for this whole can, so we'll see if it was worth it or not. Here's a closer look at one of the battery terminals with all the corrosion on it. You can see it's getting quite bad on here. Now this is the first car that I've ever owned that's really done this to any major degree, so hopefully I can spray this stuff on here and then maybe prevent this from happening in the future with the new battery. So let's give this a shot. I've got the can all shook up and I'm going to squirt it on this battery terminal and we'll see what happens. Okay, I'll let that sit on there for a few minutes and then I'll come back and try and clean off what's left. So I let that soak on there a bit and I worked at it with this little wire brush some, but now what I'm going to do is kind of rinse some of this off with this water, a little bit of warm water. And you can see it's done a fairly nice job of cleaning most of the corrosion off of this terminal here. I think I'll do one more application and try and get a little bit more of this surface stuff off, see if it'll eat the rest of it off. And then I'll do the other one, and we should be ready to take these terminals off. As you can see here, I've got both battery terminals cleaned up and ready to go. There's a little bit of corrosion still kind of in the cracks and crevices here. Once I get these off, I'll try and clean that up a little bit better before I put the new battery in place. But these are ready to remove now, so I'm going to get started with that. So I'm just going to use a 10mm wrench and loosen up the negative side first. Okay, so that's good. I don't have to take the bolt all the way off. It's just loose enough to kind of slip up and out of the way. So I'm going to try and get this out of the way over here so it doesn't contact the battery post again and re-energize anything. Now that the negative side is off, I can remove the positive side. Okay, and again, I shouldn't have to loosen that all the way, just enough to walk this off. Now this one's on there a little tight just because of all the corrosion. So I may need to get a flathead screwdriver and kind of pry this clamp apart a little bit. Okay, so there's, I don't know if it's visible in the camera, but there's a seam right here on the clamp where the two sides of it meet. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this flathead screwdriver, get it right in the seam, and just try and work that in. I may need a hammer, I guess, to kind of whack that. Let's try this while I'm here. So that's on there a little bit tight. I'm going to get a small hammer and I'm just going to tap on this to try and get it to crack loose. Okay, I think I've got it started now. Okay, it's definitely loose now, but it's not quite loose enough here to get off of the terminal. Okay, I think I got that driven apart finally, and now I should be able to just pull this off of here. Okay, that is free. Okay, now that we've got the battery terminals loosened, I'm going to try and keep this one over here and use this rag to keep it from hitting the post again. Not that it should connect because I've got the negative one off, but just in case, I just want to keep it from connecting to the post there. Anyhow, the next thing that I'm going to do is remove this back nut. Now this is a nut that's on what I'm going to call a J-hook. It's sort of just a long rod that goes down, and it's got sort of a hook on the end of it that hooks into the bottom of the battery tray. So I should be able to loosen this. I shouldn't have to take it all the way off. But I'll loosen it up here so that it's kind of got as much travel as I can give it without taking the nut all the way off. And this, by the way, is a 10mm socket. So now that that's sort of loose and ready to go, I'm going to remove this bolt that's on the front of the bracket, and this I'll take completely out. So now with that out, you can see that this bracket will just sort of pivot out of the way. And now you can see I've got this completely out of the way, and that's what the bottom of it looks like there. It's just that J-hook that hooks into a slot in the bottom of the battery tray. So that's it. This battery is now free to come out of the car. So I'm just going to lift this out. So here's a look down inside the car where the battery was. This is the battery tray, and this is just a piece of plastic. This comes out, so I'm going to set that aside. I want to clean all that corrosion out of it, and you can see there's quite a bit of corrosion that's kind of down in there, partly from just being in there and then partly from me cleaning those terminals. So I'm going to try and clean that up as best I can with a rag and some water and maybe a little more of that spray. So I'll try and get that as cleaned up as I can before I put the new battery in place. Okay, so I've got things cleaned up, not quite as well as I'd hoped, but I'm running out of time, so this is going to have to be good enough for now. I think what I'm going to do is sometime in the next month or two, when it's a nice day and I'm going to wash the car, I'll go through and do this properly. I'll pull the battery back out, clean the terminals, and hose the engine down with some engine cleaner and things like that. It's probably due for that anyway, so this should be clean enough for the meantime. So I'll get the new battery, drop it in, and we'll finish this up. I've got the new battery ready to go here. I'm going to drop it in, and I want to make sure that I've got my terminals oriented the right way. In other words, I want to make sure the positive terminal of the battery is on this side and the negative is on that side. So the next thing I'll do is pop off these little circles so that I know how old the battery is. Of course, this is upside down now in your view, but along the top row are abbreviations for each month. So what I'm going to do is pop off the one for April, because it's April. April 2nd actually today. So we'll get that out of the way. And then I will pop off the 7 over here because it is 2017. And then that way I'll know how old the battery is, so that the next time I have to replace it, I can either determine if I'm covered under my warranty or not. The next thing I'm going to do is take my bracket and reinstall that. And I've got my J-hook that's going to need to go behind the battery. So the first thing I'll do is thread this under the battery handle so that it holds the battery good and that the handle isn't underneath it. And then I'm going to turn and pivot this J-hook and find the little hole that it sort of grabs onto back there. I'll try and show a picture of it here so you can see. So here's another angle. You can see I'm behind the battery. This is the J-hook rod right here. And where it sort of disappears down there is where it turns and hooks through that little hoop that's in the bottom of the battery tray. So now that I've got that sort of loosely positioned, I'm just going to kind of pivot everything around here so it looks like it makes sense. And this battery is a little bit narrower than the one I took out, I think. But anyway, I'm going to put this bolt back in just to hold this. So I'll keep it finger tight for the moment. And then again, I'll kind of just try and fine adjust everything. And I'll tighten up the back stud with the J-hook on it, just finger tight for the moment. And once I get those finger tight, I should now be able to tighten these up. Now this front bolt I can tighten up sort of a normal amount, I guess, not over tight, but snug. The back one here, if you're not careful, you can over tighten this and crack the battery. So I've got that tightened down, and I'll check and see. You can see the battery can still move a little bit, so I'll give that a couple more turns. And I'm at the point where the battery won't move. Oh, no, it can move a little bit, so I'll give that just another half turn or so. And maybe one more. Okay, that should be good. And again, what I'm trying to do is avoid putting too much pressure on the battery so that it doesn't crack, but I want to put enough on there so it doesn't kind of move around easily. Okay, now that the bracket is tight, I should now be able to reconnect the positive battery terminal. I'm just going to put that on and work it down so that it's sort of down near the bottom of the post. So now that that's sort of down where it belongs, I'll just tighten it back up. And again, this is a situation where you don't want to over tighten, because you can kind of ruin the clamp. That should be pretty snug there. I'm going to give it just another little eighth of a turn or so maybe. And that should be good. That's biting into the post good, but not so tight that anything's bending or torquing. So now that that one's on, I can reconnect the negative terminal. And once I put this back on, the car will be energized. The main computer and anything that's sort of on during standby. So there may be a little bit of a spark when I drop this on. And I didn't see anything, but it should still be okay. So again, I'll push that down as tight as I can, and then tighten this up, just like the other one. Snug, but not over tight. So now the next thing that I would do before trying to start the car and test it out would be to coat the battery terminals with this battery terminal protector. And that's sort of what this orange stuff is that you've seen throughout the video on here. This is a kind of a layer of this stuff that was on there, and it did seem to help for a little while anyway. But I'm not going to put that on just yet. Like I said, my plan is in a couple of months on a nice warm sunny day, I'm going to take this battery back out and thoroughly clean these terminals. And then once I reinstall the battery, then I'll spray this stuff on. So I'm not going to do it today, but this is something that you can do if you want to protect your battery terminals. This stuff does help a little bit. That should do it for the installation. I've got all my tools out of the way. I talked about the battery terminal protector, so now it's time to just make sure the car will start. So that's going to do it for battery replacement on this 2012 Toyota Corolla. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to leave a comment or subscribe, feel free to do that as well. Thanks for watching.